Welcome to another ABS online video. Let's go and find out what we're going to learn today. So, very historic 26. Most countries have a lot of history. Yes, there's always a lot to look at. But this one doesn't go back so far. But it has been very turbulent. What a good word. Turbulent means unstable. Lots of arguing and fighting. So where is it? That's obviously the first important question. We are going to look at the United Kingdom. It is actually 4 countries joined together. They are England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So they're 4 separate countries, but they all work together. Are they happy together? Well, actually, throughout history, of course, people have wanted to unite and people have wanted to separate. It's always changing. And just today, people maybe want to be together, maybe want to be separate. It's a very long name as well. Actually, it has the longest country name in the world. It is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Usually, we make that very, very, very short and call it the UK. That's almost the shortest name in the world. So the longest and maybe nearly the shortest, both together. So where do we start? Well, man only settled here 13,000 years ago. That's quite recently. But why? Well, that is when the last Ice Age ended and the area became habitable. Before that, it was either covered in ice or there was no land bridge for people to walk across. Now, if you remember China, man arrived there maybe 1 million years ago. So 13,000 years ago, that's very recent. Grammar. Our 4th and final past tense is past perfect continuous. It's got a very long name, but don't worry. We just have to join the previous 2 weeks' work together. Great! Well, it's great if you can remember the previous 2 weeks' work. So let's look closer. Past perfect continuous shows that an action that started in the past continued up until another time in the past. Okay. Well, there are a lot of words there. So let's see. 2 actions, both in the past, and it continued for some time. A start, a continue, a finish. Yeah, examples are always useful. So, we've got a couple of examples here before we get into our history. We form the sentence with had been, then the verb plus ing. Man had been living there for 30,000 years before Stonehenge was built. Okay, we've got the subject there, man, and then had been and the verb plus ing, living. One more. The Romans had been attacking the Scots for many years before giving up. So we got the subject, the Romans, and then had been and the verb plus ing, attacking. Okay, that's a bit clearer. Now, the people in the UK, they started big. Stonehenge was finished 3,500 years ago. But man had been building on the site for 1,500 years previous to that. Wow! So building started 5,000 years ago. I think everyone has seen pictures of Stonehenge. But how and why it was built is still largely a mystery. Scientists, they sort of know how and why, but not really sure. There are always new ideas. So what do you think? Why? Why was this wonderful, amazing building built? Then it was fairly quiet. For the next 1,500 years, the island was relatively peaceful. Uh-oh, that doesn't look peaceful. In the year 43, the Romans invaded. Yeah, that is bad. Roman generals had been looking at the island for 100 years before they arrived. Some people think that the Romans brought real civilization to the area. Before that, the people of the UK, they lived very simple lives with very little real technology. So it was not all bad. Many wonderful new things were introduced, such as writing, a water supply, and an amazing road network. Great cities like London, York, and Manchester were established. So these are all pretty good. But don't forget, this is an invading force. Now the roads were so good that some of the routes are still used today. So who came next? The Romans left in the 5th century, and the AngloSaxons from Northern Europe invaded. Now, maybe they saw their chance. Once the Romans had gone, they wanted more land. During this time, many small kingdoms were formed, but they were always at war. So a very unstable period, really. And then the Vikings. Well, we all know what the Vikings look like. In the 9th century, Vikings raided the north, but they usually took what they wanted and went home. So some of them settled in some remote northern areas, but not really. And they didn't have a big impact on the whole area of the United Kingdom. There had been warring kingdoms for several centuries, but in the 10th century they tried to unite. How successful were they? Well, that's sort of a matter of opinion. It was never very peaceful. And then another invasion. Goodness me. Is that 4, 5 different invasions already in their history? The most famous battle of the era took place in 1066 at Hastings. Everyone in the United Kingdom knows this year, and whenever you say 1066, they always say Hastings. The Normans from France invaded, but this led to several centuries of instability in both countries. So, it was a very successful invasion, but it did lead to instability. So, was it a good outcome? Not sure, really. And the tables started to turn. There had been invading forces for 10 centuries or more, but the Tudor Dynasty started in 1485. England became explorers and established colonies around the whole world. It was very, very, very difficult at that time to get to the furthest points of our wonderful globe. But England became quite successful at doing that. A great king? Well, who's this? The most colourful king of the time was Henry VIII. He had been reigning over the kingdom for some years, but he wanted more glory. He often wanted to show off. This is what we remember him for: war and wives. Henry declared war on the French. Scotland really didn't like England, so joined the French. But Henry was victorious. I think that gave him even more to show off about. Henry wanted things all his own way. He could never find a wife that was good enough. He had 6 of them. Oh dear, my word. I think if you find a wife, you have to really try and work with them. But not Henry. 6 wives. Goodness me. The UK becoming a global power. In 1558, Elizabeth became queen. Her reign was a golden age. The economy had been strengthening, and it was mostly a peaceful period. Shakespeare. Have you ever heard of the name Shakespeare? William Shakespeare was and still is the most famous writer to ever live. He wrote stories such as Romeo and Juliet, Much Ado About Nothing, Henry V. All of these are still made into movies and used in the theatre. United. When Queen Elizabeth died, James VI of Scotland took the throne. He united the crowns of England and Scotland, and the island of Great Britain had a single ruler for the first time. Now, that's quite a large area, with many islands and quite a few different peoples. So it was quite a big achievement. Civil War. Now, first of all, let's think what that means. Civil war is a war between two groups within the one country. England had been using a parliament since 1236. King and Parliament worked together. But in 1642, Charles I was king. Both he and Parliament wanted more power over the other. This led to the English Civil War. The two sides were the people that supported the king and the people that wanted to have a powerful government or parliament. Who won? The parliamentarians, led by Oliver Cromwell, won, and they executed the king. They cut his head off. Cromwell himself tried to take too much power, and Charles II returned in 1660. But monarchs never had as much power after that. Monarchs is a word we use for both king and queen. So, since then, the United Kingdom has always had a king or a queen, but they were never really powerful. But it was still not the UK. There had been one ruling monarch, but two parliaments for over 100 years. In 1707, the Acts of Union formed the Kingdom of Great Britain. And there was more to come. In 1800, Ireland was included. This created the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. Then there was a good revolution. So a revolution is usually a war, but not this time. Many changes had been occurring in the late 18th century in the area of industry. As industry grew, many people left farming. This was called the Industrial Revolution. Now, we had an empire. The UK was ready to take advantage of this because of the many resources available from around the empire. we could get lots of cotton, lots of coal, and my favourite, lots of tea. And the empire just grew and grew. From the 16th to the 19th century, British explorers had been discovering and colonising many places. We went looking and we just settled down there. So where did the empire grow? There were colonies in North and Central America, Africa, the Middle East, India, Asia, and Australasia. Wow, look at that! We often say the sun never set on the British Empire. This means all the time, somewhere in the world, it was sunny on part of the British Empire. Now, it became the largest empire the world had ever seen. The Victorian Age. Queen Victoria reigned from 1837 to 1901, and this was another golden age. The colonies brought great wealth, and the UK was at its most powerful. Improvements. The population had been growing for centuries, but it more than doubled in the Victorian Age. Salaries also rose by 50%. Now, these are big changes. Great engineering led to much better transport, especially trains. The 20th century. That was a century of amazing change as well. The UK was heavily involved in both world wars, and this led to a decrease in both wealth and power. The empire started to get smaller. Many colonies were given their independence. Many colonies helped the United Kingdom during these wars. And after the war, well, the UK was not really super rich anymore. So it was much better to allow these colonies to be independent. What about today? Despite no longer being a world superpower, the UK has remained one of the most important financial markets. London is still a diverse and exciting city. So, we are still a very important and influential country, but not the most important anymore. Now, have you noticed that I have been saying we? Well, that's because I was born in the UK. So that's why I have been saying we. So where next? No more countries. Did you enjoy our brief look at history? Well, I have to admit, I enjoyed today. I have not lived in the UK for a very, very, very long time. But I guess it's still my country. Our next topic is very different. What is it? Well, see you soon to find out what it is. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you for watching our video today. Please don't forget, subscribe, and that will help us to make lots more videos for you. Thank you. Bye.